Hello, everybody. Thank you once again for joining me, Vivian Xavier, for another panel discussion for GIFF 2022. And today we're going to be joined by Rumana Husain, who's an artist, who's an educator, who's a writer from Pakistan. She has written over 60 children's books. She's written 2 coffee table books. She's been associated with that. She's also been a principal of a school, of a private school in Pakistan. She is also a resource person, has been connected to Children's Literature Festival in Pakistan, and also currently the I Am Karachi Festival. So thank you so much, Mrs. Hussain, for joining us today, for agreeing to talk to us.
My
Brief,
pleasure. Thank you.
you're
Thank you.
welcome. Briefly, if you could
Hmm.
just give me a little bit about when did you decide to become an artist, and a little bit about yourself, of your journey from being
Sure.
from
Okay.
to deciding to become an artist.
Okay. So I was born in Karachi, and I come from a family of doctors, medical doctors. So my family obviously also wanted me to be one, um, but I had other ideas, and I really wanted to go to the National College of Arts in Lahore, but my mother wouldn't hear of it. I'm talking about the late 60s. Okay. So it wasn't so easy for anybody, girl or boy, to become an artist. But because, it was just thought that, you're going to starve yourself, and how will you earn, what will become of you. But more than that, for my mother, it was like, sending me to another city, and co-education. I came from an all-girls school. I did my inter science from an all-girls college. So, so anyway, I joined the Central Institute of Arts and Crafts in Karachi, where Mr. Ali Imam was our principal. We had some fantastic teachers like Rashid Arshad and Bashir Mirza, Sabia Qureshi, several others. And, I had a wonderful 4 years there. And I feel that I owe a lot to my art education. So that's what happened. Yeah.
And so you know it's sort of come full circle, where you're not just an artist, but you're an educator as well. Do you think that those two roles are exclusive? Do you think a lot of what you put out in the world as an educator is something that you received in your formal training when you were in art
Um,
school?
Yeah, so your question, the first question was, why did I come towards the arts,
Yeah.
and what prompted me to become an artist? I just I feel it's a cliche, but sometimes right from your childhood what you want to do. So it was something like that for me, that I love to draw and paint, and with my hands create stuff, do crafts and all that kind of thing. So I knew that my heart was in the arts. Also, my teacher at school was the famous Hasina Moin, and
Ah.
the playwright, and so she was my art teacher initially for a few years, and later on for 2 years I had elective history, and she used to teach history. And during my childhood, when I was very young, my art teacher was Nazik Ramullah, Begum Shaista Ramullah's daughter, who is an artist, and she has been living in Ottawa in Canada. So I had these wonderful teachers. I think like I said, I owe a lot to all these wonderful teachers that I had. And yes, I just feel that when I joined that private school, I joined as an art teacher. And I was in the second year that I was there, I was then offered to, start heading the school. So I suppose they saw some kind of potential in me that, although the art teacher is most of the time kind of sidelined, but because, the other subjects are considered as core subjects and
Yeah.
not art. But I think for me, I feel that if I had not done what I did, I would not have been a writer or an educator either. So everything kind of, for me, it's all connected, because whether it is writing, whether it is drawing, whether it is painting, whether it is filmmaking, I think all the literature, everything, all the arts are connected to each other. So, and by the way, later on, after I completed the 4 years, I also went to Canada for a year, and there I took up at the Nova Scotia Institute of Technology a course in television production and direction.
Okay.
Because that was also something that attracted me a lot. So like I said, the arts, they compel you kind of, to do so many things for which one lifetime is not enough. So you want to do photography, you want to act, you want to sing, you want to write, you want to direct, you want to produce. So there's just a lot that one can do. But I maybe it does mean Jane of all trades and master of none, but and maybe I am that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the saying goes that, master of none, but it's still better, better than just having one. So I mean, having multiple skills under your
Interests.
belt and interests,
Yeah,
they
interests and
inform how
yeah.
you sort of,
Hmm.
what you put out into the world and how
Hmm.
that relates to everything. Because, like you said, there's, you know, all of them connect. They have a connective tissue that
Yeah,
runs through them.
true.
So I guess having all of that has given you the chance, when you're educating people, to look at different perspective as well. um, Coming to my next question, you have been associated with quite a few festivals. For a country like Pakistan, what do you see the importance of festivals in a country like Pakistan?
Um, you see, there is the Children's Festival. Initially, we called it the Children's Literature Festival, and this was started by Dr. Bela Raza Jamil in November 2011 from Lahore. And she asked me to join the board as an advisor. So I have been on the board, but now for a year now, more than a year, we are calling it the Pakistan Learning Festival. And in the last 10 years, or just over 10 years, we have done 80 festivals, which is a lot. So I'm really proud of that. And I think, people have like one festival a year, right? For anything. But 80 would mean roughly on an average 8 festivals a year.
Yeah.
And these have been held in smaller towns, in large urban areas, sometimes in Lahore and Karachi, Islamabad, Bahawalpur. We've had multiple as well, like maybe 4 times or 3 times of something like that. Very recently, I was in Skardu in the northern areas, and close to the snow mountains, right next to them. So we that was the first over there. We've also held it in Tharparkar, in Mithi. We've held it in Balochistan. And so, like I said, in so many different places. And during 2020, when it was not possible to have
In
physical one,
person, yeah.
in-person one, we had our first online festival. I was in the USA for a year at that time. In fact, my husband and I were there with our son. And I attended it, I participated, I had my own session. And then again in 2021, since it was in January and we were there for 13 months, so this was a hybrid one. It was happening physically, a smaller one in Lahore as well as in Karachi at the same time, and also online. So once again, I could attend it. But what I'm trying to say is that it's quite phenomenal to have that many festivals in 10 years. And thousands of children attend this because we, and the reason for changing its name was that right from the beginning, we were using music, theater, we were showing films, we were launching books, we were having storytelling sessions, we were having, discussions, there were panel discussions involving children or about education and so on. So we have so many resource persons who include writers and poets and like I said, actors and, scholars, so many people from all over Pakistan. So I think it has been really a learning experience for everybody. I mean, the children are very lucky that they get to rub shoulders with so many great minds of the country and, see them up close and have discussions with them. But even for us, all of us adults, I think we have learned a lot. We have science as well, so in that festival, and of course, technology, digital technology, and so on. So we want the children to get because not every school caters to all these things, and our children are from public schools as well as private schools, but mostly from public schools, because we have wherever we hold the festival, there is a kind of public-private partnership, in the sense that they invite the public schools. So that's very good for us, and that is why the children and teachers, I mean, they come in droves. Yeah. And the other festival I'm involved in with, like you had said, the I'm Karachi social movement, it was started some years ago because we just felt that Karachi needed these creative solutions, in the sense that there was too much of strife and whatever had been happening in Karachi, and so we needed cultural solutions. When I say solutions, I simply mean that more of these things, so that people, the youth in particular, have things to do and look up to and so on. So so it was art and music and theater and talks and all of that. I was championing one project, which was the wall paintings in the city. Okay, so we were doing that, and then out of I Am Karachi came the International Public Art Festival. And so far we've been able to hold only two. So the first one was curated by Amin Gulji at KPT, outside KPT, inside the, what do you call, the large, the trailers that So they were kept in the yard, and the artworks were inside those, and there was performing art as well. And then we had one which was curated by Suhail Zubairi, and that was held in the city campus at NED, the architecture department. So it was held over there. And we invite, the curators invite artists from not only all over the country, but also the diaspora to participate. So yes, I think these have been very good major involvements for me.
And how are these being funded? Are these private? Is it
Yes,
the
private.
government that's so it's entirely private?
No, the government does not give any money. It's the corporate sector that is mostly, that mostly sponsors such things. But like I said, we could only have two of these, but because again, the conditions have been bad, and COVID has struck, and businesses have been down, and so it has affected everything.
Yeah, so they're reluctant to provide funds as well.
Right. Yeah.
So
But
what?
hopefully things will improve. It will get better and better.
Yes,
Hopefully.
as things move on, and we start to
Yes.
deal with COVID in a more organized fashion, I'm sure they will. But what can be done to facilitate these sort of movements for social change? What can be done on a federal or provincial level, or even from the private sector? I know that we're getting help, but how can these get done more so that, like you said, with the Pakistan Learning Festival,
Well,
that
so far
affects
we've been
more.
lucky.
Yeah,
So
I mean
far
that
we've been
affects
lucky.
more like a lot of people who aren't able to
Hmm.
have access to that. So how can we, as a nation, how can that become more, and the advantages obviously be spread to a wider group?
Vivian, the thing is that I think art in our country, people don't really see its worth. You know, um, it has taken 75 years. It will probably take some more years before the realization sets in how important it is. Because with the festival that we have for children, it's still seen as educational and so on. And although children are the least, they are the least important members in our society, unfortunately. So we don't make films for children. We hardly have any theater for children.
Hmm.
We hardly have any songs for children, music, television. Look at us. Hundreds of channels and not one children's program. So I have been saying this. I've been pretty vocal about it, and criticizing them, all these private channels, that they can't provide a half hour in their 24-hour transmission for children's programs.
It never
So
used to be that way, though. I mean, like, I
no,
remember growing
when
up
we
on
had
Uncle
one, when
Sargam.
we had PTV, we had such wonderful children's programs, So that's what I'm saying, that children are the most neglected segment, and art has been, it's not seen as, but having said that, look at our films now. There may be very few and far between, but I think we are coming up with some wonderful films, the alternate cinema, if you want to call it that, but smaller budgets, with smaller budgets. And I think it has been happening for some time now. And recently I watched Kamli, for example, Sarmad's film. My husband and I, we were just blown away. We just thought it was something so fantastic in all aspects. I mean, when you talk of a film, there's so many things, right from the story, the script, the dialogues, the music, the acting, of course, and the direction. I think it ticks all the boxes, and really it's done so well, and so much food for thought, because there are so many layers to the story, and so I think we have some wonderful filmmakers in our country who are from the younger lot, and they are coming up with so I think some of the taboo subjects that again, I think the state refuses to air them. So there have been films which have not been we have not been able to showcase them here, which is so unfortunate. I mean, Sharmeen has made films, Sharmeen Chinoy, and we have not been able to watch them. Now she's come up with Miss Marvel, and so what I'm saying is that apart from these well-known names like Sharmeen or like Sarmat Sultan, I think there are other lesser familiar or lesser known ones, but they are also they're coming out with very good films, which we all need to watch. So they have to be made available. So the government can at least do that to give them a chance, And for how long are we not going to talk about subjects that need to be talked about? So we are very judgmental. So we come to, we want to just, or I should say also hypocritical, because we think that, if we show a film like that, which talks about this particular subject, then, our youth will all be, I don't know, something will happen, something bad will happen to everyone, which is so naive to think that, So, yeah, I think things need to change.
So then the onus of the responsibility over here falls on the government to give access to equitable distribution of stories,
Yes.
you would say?
Yes, I would say that, because similar to what happened to dance in our country,
Hmm.
that even during Ziaul Haq's times, films with vulgar kind of dances in the movies were allowed. They were there, but classical dance was not allowed. Right? I mean, his program was banned on television. She left the country. Then she returned later. But Shima continued.
Yeah.
She has continued and continued in the face of, huge challenges that she has had. But she's somebody I really admire for her courage, because, she has dealt with all of that, but she has continued. But then we need to have many more Shimas, right? I mean, dance is just such a wonderful art, and it needed to be promoted more. So there is, like I said, hypocrisy. So on the one hand, in the movies, it was all kosher, it was allowed, but on stage, classical dancing was not allowed.
So this brings me to my next question. Obviously, we're talking about the government having the responsibility to open up those avenues to people, but then you also have, and this is a criticism that I've heard, and I've made that as well myself, that we have such a huge population of Pakistan under the poverty line. For them, eating 3 meals a day is often a matter of survival, and how do we give access to these people, the and let them through the 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 gates of where the art is, or have access to those avenues when for them art is not as important. Like we've already mentioned that art is not given that importance and it's not seen as important. um but how do we give access to people who are below the poverty line
So
and let them
within
know
the
that this is something that should be.
idea, yes, the idea for having our public art festival was entirely this, that and the idea of having art on the walls of the city was this, to encourage people to look at art in open spaces. And the public art festivals, the two of them that we had, they were public. They were, I mean, everybody was encouraged to come and take a look. They were out in the open. Similarly, I feel that if now, unfortunately, uh, the movies are in these
Multiplexes.
multiplexes and prohibitive ticket
Prices, yes,
so
for sure.
prices. So if it is 900 rupees or 1,000 rupees per person, obviously the masses cannot go to it.
I
It isn't
agree.
like the
Yeah,
old times
I
when
agree 100%. Yeah.
this was the one very, very affordable entertainment. So the cinema houses were demolished. Instead, we built all these shopping plazas. So it has been really a very, very tragic, I would say, development that has happened in our country. So because there, okay, forget that the ticket was 3 rupees or 5 rupees then. We are not talking about those times. But even now, it could be, I mean, if it is 50 rupees, 100 rupees, they can still afford it. I mean, where do they go? Where do they take their families? I live in Karachi, so I know that their only entertainment remains the beach.
Hmm.
So they throng the beach at all times throughout the year, because there is nothing else. And now even the beach has been it is being encroached upon, and so private developers and so on are building, and so the excess, I mean, limited access will be there for the public. But anyway, that's still, I mean, we have to see that does not happen. But the problem is that, yes, whether it is television or whether it is, I mean, it does mean only television is something that they can access, right? They can't now watch movies in the cinema houses. They
Yeah.
can't, and art galleries, obviously, they remain for a few people. I mean, the person walking in the street will not walk into an art gallery. So that remains. But the arts councils, for example, they are, and I would also like to load their role in this, that in Karachi, I know that something or the other continues to happen at the Arts Council.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's similar in Lahore. So, people are encouraged, and so many of these events that happen there are free. There is no ticket. So people do go there. Now, recently, like with new management and so on, Napa is also, there has been kind of a revival, in the sense that lots more is happening. It also had an open house, and other things are, so one can hope that, all these things are more accessible to the common person. Yeah.
So when we talking about accessibility, it's we cannot exclude the fact that to to appreciate art, you need to have a sense of aesthetic, and you need to be able to understand that. Obviously, with harkening back to having a population under the poverty line, they're not given access to differentiate just by virtue of not having learned that ability, because they don't have access. How do we change that? Can you speak a little bit about the art of aesthetically, or rather watching cinema that's aesthetic, or reading that's not just the run of the mill sort of magazines that we get, but reading proper literature, getting access to that, libraries, good cinema, art that is, I would say, elevated aesthetically. I mean, how do we give them access, or how do we push them in that direction, so that, because you're doing a lot of festivals for kids, and obviously 30 years down the line, 40 years down the line, I'm sure the idea is that they will get influenced by that, and they will bring about the change. So how do we ensure that these are taken care of, not just for the next few years, but a
Well,
decade
not
or two
40
down the line?
years, not 30 years, not 40 years. If these children, on an average, let's say if they are 10-year-old, I mean, our festivals are from 5 to 18 years old. So I would say that, maybe in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, I mean, these children, when they become adults, so they are going to hopefully, they would have imbibed something. Uh, but the other, you're talking about literature, you're talking about books and accessibility. How many public libraries do we have? And how many people are really, encouraged to become members, or just go? And even if there are reading rooms, even if they are not borrowing the books, even if sitting there and reading, I don't know. I don't have the data, but I can, off the cuff, I can tell you that it must be such a minuscule, number, considering our population. How many people are literate to begin with, right?
Mm.
I mean, we have something like 22 million children who are out of school. So there you go. So I mean, there's so many things that can be put right. Right now Karachi is suffering. I don't know if you have any idea what we've been going through for a week now with the
With the
rains.
rains, I've seen it.
And
It's a
it
flood
is
down
it
there.
is a disaster. It's like, I mean, just before this, we had no electricity, and I was wondering, I said, oh my god, I just hope that it comes back. Yesterday we got it after 18 hours. So I mean, things are bad. We can't manage our cities, we can't educate our people, we can't. So the aesthetics comes from, I'm not trying to say that you first provide everything and only then, maybe that's not true, because even the poor have their own aesthetics. I mean, you look at their homes, or you look at the things that they use, they will have some, I mean, they have their own aesthetics,
Yeah, yeah,
they don't
yeah.
have to be the same as your aesthetics or my aesthetics, but of course there is something. So they will they beautify their homes, or their clothes, or their whatever, in whichever way, whatever they are using. Or but in order to appreciate the arts, or movies that are not only raunchy kind of, that they have been fed,
Yeah.
so it is like, we, I think, always take refuge under the pretext that this is what the public wants.
Hmm.
right? So don't
But you're
don't
not
wait.
giving the public really a choice. There's no
You are not
equitable
giving them a
distribution.
choice. They haven't seen any better, so why, say that this is what they like? Because who has given them what they are saying that okay, they like that? I think we have to first make enough such art, make enough such, and when I say art, it can be movies, it can be anything
Yeah.
else. So and make it all accessible to everyone, to a large, let's say, to a large populace.
Audience.
So
Yes.
yes, audience, and only then we can say that they are learning to appreciate that, or they already appreciate that. We don't know that.
Well, yeah, I mean the appreciation of art really it goes across all boundaries. It's not just people
Daily,
of lower
yes,
income groups, but everyone. I mean, like there's
yeah.
obviously a learning curve, and you don't really stop learning that in any case, I feel. But Mrs. Hussain, thank you so much for joining us today and for
Welcome.
sharing us some valuable insights. Um, and I cannot wait to look forward to see the fruit of what you've sown in Pakistan along the last 10, 15 years. But thank you again for joining us at Gandhara
Thank
Independent Film
you. My
Festival.
pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're
Bye.
welcome.
Take
Bye.
care.